Hi Dan, I'm Keith Anglin. We're going to talk about starting your new 32 Bantam blown alcohol car up, and we're going to walk through the starting procedures and how I typically store the engine when I'm not running the car. And I always pull the plugs out when I'm done, as we've talked about. I always pull the blowdown tubes out every time I start the car, whether it's in the shop warming it up or make a pass. As soon as you get down there, you notice all the condensation in the lines as we discussed. Make sure you keep these things out of there and keep all that condensation out of your motor. Lets the engine breathe. What we're going to first talk about, we're going to talk about a lot of different procedures, and then we're going to actually fire the car up, run it through the gears. Let's talk about the startup procedures first. The car is up in the air, it's on the stand, so all the spark plugs are out of the engine, so as you build up engine oil pressure and fuel pressure, obviously the engine rolls over a lot easier. It's not hard on all your parts. And what I'll typically do is reach down here. You can't see this. I'll turn on the lever for the fuel pump so it can build up fuel pressure at the same time it's building up engine oil pressure. And one of the things I like to do is you just hold the butterflies open and take you a flashlight and you look down in the injector hat. Again, the plugs are out. You're just building up fluid pressures. And you can see the hat nozzles. And as the engine is rolled over, you can look down there. About the time you see fuel coming out of the hat, your oil pressure will be up. So now you've got fuel up in the motor. Your oil pressure is built up. Now you're ready to put the spark plugs back in and start the engine. This is a blower starter. If you're not familiar with a blower starter, it just locks onto the snout. Locks onto the snout up here. It's an easy on off. Kind of a counterclockwise it locks on, and you rotate this clockwise. It's got a little toggle switch up here to actually activate the starter when you get ready. If we were fixing to fire the car up at this point, again, the blowdown tubes would be in, all the plugs would be in it, and I would be in the car. Whoever's starting the car is going to open up the injector hat and spray some fuel in, roll it over, and be ready here to prime. So as the engine starts up, it'll be a little lean, you'll hear the RPMs come up, and as the fuel pressure builds up, it'll calm back down. At that time, you're done priming the engine. And when the engine starts up, the starter drive that's out into the blower snout will typically it'll drive itself back in the starter, so you can just unhook your power cord at that point and take your starter off. Pretty easy process. When we get ready to shut the motor off, the magneto switch is on the inside. You just want to pull the fuel pressure, pull the fuel shut off first. And as the engine RPM start to come up, you'll hear it kind of level off, and about that time I kill the mag switch. Jump out of the car, again, take the blowdown tubes off, and if we're just up here in the shop like we are today, I'd immediately pull the spark plugs back out, again, let the motor vent, and it will be good to go. Make sure your air bottle's on. There's an air bottle right here. The only thing the air system operates are the push button manifold shifters for the Lenco. So you got to make sure you got that air on, so as you start the car you can run through the gears. I'm going to back up here just a little bit around the cockpit area. If I'm in the car and the engine starts, typically what I'll do is I got my hand on the brake, I got the clutch in, so as the car starts I'll immediately take the shifter and I'll pull it back, which will be in the drive. And when the shifter handle is back in the drive and both buttons are out on the manifold, you're actually in low gear. So as soon as the engine starts, I'm in the low gear position. I will release the brake and the clutch at the same time. I'll get into an idle situation, and all that does is allow the transmission and the rear end fluids to start circulating and warming up as the engine's warming up, again at a low RPM until we get a little temperature in it before we start really trying to run through the gears hard. The second gear is located on your left hand side. So as you push second gear in, you're in second gear. If you go to the right hand button, you push it in, you're in third gear. It will back up in third gear, it will go forward in third gear or second gear. When you get ready to back up, you pull both of these out and push in the clutch, hold the brake. Your shift handle between your leg will go all the way forward into the reverse position. Make sure you have your brake and make sure you got your clutch in and you come to a complete stop before you start trying to change gears, or you'll have a problem. Let's say I'm going to do a burnout. Typically what I do a high gear burnout, and Car fires up. We go through the same procedures. I'm in the car, got my hand on the brake, got the clutch pushed in. I'll go ahead and as soon as I let off the clutch and the car starts to roll, I'm in low gear. I'm rolling in the water box. I'll go ahead and push second and third gear. So now I'm in high gear. I'll kind of push the clutch in as I roll through the water box. I just let out on the clutch just a little bit, bring the R's up. It'll get to 7 grand pretty quick. That's usually where I do a burnout. And I just watch the tach. And like I said, you may think you're going to lug it, but it's really got a lot of power, and it pulls third gear to burn out pretty quick. So at the end of making a pass, push in the clutch, and I'm off with the fuel just as soon as I've got the chutes out. I pull the chutes first. The chute lever is positioned about right here when the body's on the car. Again, we don't have the body on for this demonstration. As you cross the finish line, you reach up and you hit the chutes, push in the clutch, brake, and at the same time you're pulling that brake, you're turning that fuel off. You want to get the fuel off immediately. That's priority number one after you get the chutes out. And again, when you roll up, you can just pull your air manifolds back out, put the shifter in the neutral position, and you'll be good to go. So here in just a minute, we're fixing to, it's about 60 degrees here today. Still, we're going to go ahead and I'll get a space heater and put it on the car. We're going to get the engine warmed up and get it ready to fire up and walk you through the car running and kind of just running through the gears. Again, you won't be able to hear anything. We're trying to do the demonstration now, and you'll see that in just a minute.